HMS Canopus was a pre-dreadnought battleship of the British Royal Navy and the lead ship of the Canopus class. At the beginning of the First World War she was involved in the search from the German East Asia Squadron of Admiral Graf. Spee.Too slow to follow Admiral Sir Christopher Cradock's cruises. She missed the Battle of Coronel, but fired the first shots of the Battle of the Falklands. Transferred to the Mediterranean, she took part in the naval operations in the Dardanelles Campaign. Technical description: Canopus's keel was laid down at Portsmouth Dockyard on 4 January 1897. The ship was launched on 12 October 1897, and completed on 5 December 1899. She was named after the ancient city of Canopus, Egypt, where the Battle of the Nile took place. Canopus and her 5 sister ships were designed for service in the Far East, where the new rising power Japan was beginning to build a powerful and dangerous navy. These vessels were intended to be able to transit the Suez Canal. They were designed to be smaller, lighter and faster than the predecessors, the Majestic-class battleships, although they were slightly longer at 430 feet. To save weight, Canopus carried less armor than the Majestics, although the change from heavy armor in the Majestics to crab armor in Canopus meant that the loss in protection was not as great as it might have been, crab armor having greater protective value at a given weight than its heavy equivalent. Still, the armor of the Canopus class was light enough to make them almost second-class battleships. Part of their armor scheme included the use of a special 1-inch armored deck over the belt to defend against plunging fire by howitzers that France reportedly planned to install on its ships, although this report proved to be false. Canopus had 4 12-inch 35-caliber guns mounted in twin turrets fore and aft. These guns were mounted in circular barbets that allowed all-around loading, although at a fixed elevation. The ships also mounted 12 6-inch 40-caliber guns in addition to smaller guns, and 4 18-inch submerged torpedo tubes. The Canopus-class ships were the first British battleships with water tube boilers, which generated more power at less expense in weight compared with the cylindrical boilers used in previous ships. The new boilers led to the adoption of fore and aft funnels, rather than the side-by-side funnel arrangement used in many previous British battleships. The Canopus-class ships proved to be good steamers, consuming 10 tons of coal per hour at full speed, with a high speed for battleships of the time, a full 2 knots faster than the Majestics. Operational history: Pre-World War I, HMS Canopus was commissioned by Captain Wilmot Fawkes at Portsmouth on 5 December 1899 for service in the Mediterranean Fleet. Captain Harry Sewell Frank Niblett was appointed in command in November 1900, and she underwent a refit at Malta from December 1900 to June 1901. In May 1902 she visited Palermo to attend festivities in connection with the opening of an agricultural exhibition by King Victor Emmanuel, and the following month saw her visiting Larnaca. While in reserve, Canopus was given an extensive refit by Camel Laird at Birkenhead that lasted from May 1903 to June 1904. Returning to the commissioned reserve at Portsmouth, she was rammed by the battleship HMS Barfla in Mounts Bay during maneuvers on 5 August 1904, suffering slight damage. Canopus returned to full commission on 9 May 1905 and was sent to relieve the battleship HMS Centurion on the China station. She had reached Colombo, Ceylon on her outbound voyage when the United Kingdom and Japan ratified a treaty of alliance alliance. The alliance meant that the United Kingdom could have a reduced presence on the China station and battleships were no longer required there. Sir Canopus was recalled from Colombo in June 1905 and thus was the only Canopus-class battleship which did not serve on the China station. Upon her return to the United Kingdom, Canopus began service in the Atlantic Fleet on the 22nd of July 1905. In January 1906 she transferred to the Channel Fleet and later that year was fitted with fire control. On the 10th of March 1907 she transferred to the Portsmouth Division of the Home Fleet at Portsmouth, where she was reduced to a nucleus crew in May 1907 and underwent a refit between November 1907 and April 1908. Her refit completed, P. Canopus commissioned on the 28th of April 1908 for service in the Mediterranean Fleet. In December 1909, she was reduced to service in the 4th Division Home Fleet, undergoing a refit at Chatham Dockyard from July 1911 to April 1912. During this service, in May 1912 she went into reserve at the North to serve as the parent ship for the 4th Division Home Fleet. In 1913 and 1914 she was stationed at Pembroke Dock in Wales as part of the 3rd Fleet. World War I. After World War I broke out in August 1914, P. Canopus was commissioned on the 7th of August 1914 for service in the 8th Battle Squadron in the Channel Fleet. She was detached from the duty on the 21st of August 1914 to operate from the Cape Verde Canary Islands station to support the Cruiser Squadron there. On the 1st of September 1914, her sister ship HMS Albion relieved her and Canopus transferred to the South America station, arriving at the Abrolhos Rocks on the 22nd of September 1914 to become guard ship there and provide support to the Cruiser Squadron of Rear Admiral Christopher Cradock. The search for Admiral von Spee's squadron. Canopus departed the Abrolhos Rocks on the 8th of October 1914 to assist Cradock's ships in searching for the German squadron of Admiral Graf Maximilian von Spee, which was en route to the South Atlantic from the Far East. Canopus arrived at Stanley in the Falkland Islands on the 18th of October 1914, where she took up guardship and escort duties. Informed by her captain Heathcote Grant that Canopus could make no more than 12 knots, Cradock left Canopus behind when he took his cruiser squadron into the South Pacific to find the German squadron. She was 300 nautical miles south of Cradock when the German squadron destroyed his force and killed Cradock in the Battle of Coronel on the 1st of November, 1914. Canopus returned to Stanley, arriving there on the 12th of November 1914. At Stanley, Canopus's crew set up defenses against an attack by Graf Spee. Canopus herself was beached in the mudflats in a position that allowed her to cover the entrance to the harbour and have a field of fire landward to the southeast to reduce her visibility. Her topmasts were struck and she was camouflaged. An observation post was established ashore on high ground and connected to the ship by telephone, allowing Canopus to use indirect fire against approaching ships. Some of her 12-pounder guns and a detachment of 70 Royal Marines were put ashore to defend Stanley and its environs. All was quiet until welcome reinforcements arrived at Stanley on the 7th of December 1914 in the form of the battle cruiser squadron of Vice Admiral Sir Frederick Doveton Sturdy. Early the next morning, the 8th of December 1914, Canopus's observation post ashore spotted smoke on the horizon and soon identified the approaching ships as von Spee's squadron. Canopus opened in direct fire, firing the first shots of the Battle of the Falklands at the extreme range of 12,000 yards. Although von Spee was beyond the range of her guns, she did succeed in hitting the after funnel of the armored cruiser HMS Gneisenau with a 12-inch shell that ricocheted off the water. Under fire from Canopus and spotting the top hampers of Sturdy's battle cruisers, von Spee called off his forces' planned attack on the Falklands radio and coaling stations and ran, allowing Sturdy's force to raise steam and pursue the German force. Sturdy gave chase and destroyed von Spee's squadron by the end of the day, but Canopus remained behind at Stanley because of her low speed and missed the rest of the battle. Canopus left the Falklands on the 18th of December 1914 to return to her South American station duties at the Abrolhos Rocks. Dardanelles Campaign. In February 1915, Canopus transferred to the Mediterranean to take part in the Dardanelles Campaign. On the 2nd of March 1915, she took part in the second attack on the Ottoman Turkish entrance forts at the Dardanelles, taking hits that tore off her main topmast and damaged her after funnel and wardroom. During the third landings on the 4th of March 1915, she demonstrated off the Aegean coast. She covered the bombardment of the forts by the dreadnought HMS Queen Elizabeth on the 8th of March 1915, and covered minesweepers attempting to sweep in minefields off Kefers between the 10th of March 1915 and the 12th of March 1915. She also took part in the major attack on the Narrows forts on the 18th of March 1915. After that attack, Canopus and light cruiser HMS Talbot escorted the damaged battle cruiser HMS Inflexible from Mudros to Malta, towing Inflexible by the stern when Inflexible became unable to steam ahead during the latter part of the voyage. Canopus then escorted troop convoys from Egypt, returning to the Dardanelles. Canopus took part in the blockade of Smyrna and covered a diversionary attack on Bulair during the main landings on the 25th of April 1915. When her sister ship Albion became stranded on a sandbank off Garbour Ypres under heavy fire on 22-23 May 1915, Canopus towed her free. Canopus then underwent a refit at Malta from May to June 1915. Later operations, after the Dardanelles campaign ended with the evacuation of Allied forces from Gallipoli in January 1916, Canopus was assigned to the British Eastern Mediterranean Squadron, where she served until she returned to the United Kingdom in April 1916. Decommissioning and subsidiary duties. Canopus arrived at Plymouth on the 22nd of April 1916, then paid off at Chatham to provide crews for anti-submarine vessels. She remained at Chatham until April 1916, undergoing a refit later in 1916, having her 8 main deck 6-inch guns replaced by 4 on the battery deck and her 12-pounder and 3-pounder guns replaced by light anti-aircraft weapons in 1917, and becoming an accommodation ship in February 1918. Disposal. Canopus was placed on the disposal list at Chatham in April 1919. She was sold for scrapping on the 18th of February 1920 and arrived at Dover on the 26th of February 1920 to be scrapped.